So guys, in this video here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna retrace this front body. So you're gonna need a piece of paper, a marker, and a ruler. So you need a fresh piece of paper. So on this fresh piece of paper, I'm going to draw a guideline. Now this guideline is to line up the front to the top so that I can retrace the front to the top. Now we are retracing both the back and the front of this top. So draw your guideline on a fresh piece of paper, put the front of your top down, measure it up to the guideline and start tracing. Now the shoulder dart, we will move the shoulder dart to the waist as you see I'm doing here. So I'm going to draw in half of the front and half of the waist, half of the shoulder. And then I'm going to swing this top until the dart end that more closer to the armhole come to the front of the top that more closer to the neck. So I'm going to draw in this here, trace over the front of this top and until I complete the fully drafted top. And remember to trace all your dart and everything. So as you see, I marking out my dart here. Now I move the shoulder dart to the waist dart, and I will show you in the next video how to move your dart around. But for now we are doing this top. So as you can see, I trace over the front of this bodice. The reason why I trace over the front of the bodice is because I want to keep the main bodice for the person. I don't want to cut up her um the basic bodice, so I trace it over. So this is what it would look like. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to retrace this bodice on a fresh piece of paper so that I can have two copies. So as you see in here, I retracing so I could have two copy of the same front bodice. So this is the front bodice I am retracing as well. The one that I traced before is underneath this one here that I am tracing. So I'm putting in the dart and everything like the original bodice. So I'm going to remove it and you're going to see I have two of the same thing. Right? I have two of the same thing. So it's two copies I make. The reason why I make this two copy is because to do the style line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw the front of this one. I'm going to put these two bodies together. So I'm going to paste these two bodies together. Both, this is the two front only that I'm sticking together to make one bodice. So as you can see, it's like cutting the fabric on a fold, so you end up with the whole bodice instead of two bodices. Now the reason for doing this is because I need to draw in the style line for place the button. Now at this point here, you can design your top anyhow you want it. It's up to you. Whatever design you want, you can do. So I'm gonna get my triangle curve and I'm gonna draw in a 3 centimeter line. Now this 3 centimeter line is the button stay, right? Or the place to place the button, where the button will be. This is the facing for the button, and then I'm going to draw a 1 centimeter line to stitch the facing on. So this is what the line look like. Now as you can see, the bigger line is the 3 centimeter line, right? This is where the button will be in between these line here. And then the ones, yes, so from here now use the 1 centimeter line that I put here. So the 1 centimeter is for the facing. Now what I am doing here, I'm going to measure down 6 centimeter to lower the neckline, because my client don't need her neckline so high. She need to be comfortable. She don't like her neckline high up to she neck choking her. So I'll measure down 6 centimeter and then I will measure 4 centimeter at the shoulder. So 6 centimeter at the neck to lower it, and then 4 centimeter at the shoulder to lower this neckline, so the client could be comfortable. So you will lower your neckline and draw it into your fancy. Now you don't have to draw 6 centimeter. It depends on how low and how high you want your neckline. But I know my client and she don't need her neckline so high. Right? I need her to be comfortable. She like to put her she like her neck to be a little low. So this, now what I'm doing here, I'm gonna use this this curve rule that I am, roller curve here that I have. This is a very nice handy dandy tools that I have here. I'm gonna tell you a little more about this in a next video. If you want to know about this tool, let me know down below in a comment. So I'm going to measure half of the armhole to make the princess line, because they need a princess line at the armhole. They don't want it to the neck, they want it to the armhole. So I'm going to take my ruler and going to curve that princess seam there so that they can, that is the style line that I am putting in there. So this princess line will go from the dart to the half of the armhole. Then I'm going to draw a straight line here down to the dart to take up some ease from the neckline. So I'm going to draw in 1 centimeter dart so that I can take up that ease from the neckline, because I don't need the neckline to be droopy and to be too big. You need it to sit down on the client flat and nice so the client would be comfortable. Now you have to design your clothes for your client to suit your client, because you don't want your client to not to be pleased with you and your clothing when it's done. You want your client to be pleased so that they can tell other people about your skill and you can get other clients. So what I'm doing here, after I done drawing the dart for the neck, I'm gonna fold this pattern and then I'm gonna cut this pattern. The reason for folding the pattern is because if I cut it out just like that, where I draw in the 1 centimeter with the button is where I put the 3 centimeter and then I put the 1 centimeter. And if I cut it out straight like that, it's gonna be sharp. I don't want it to be sharp, so I want to make sure to get the extra fabric. So I'm gonna fold it, and then I'm gonna cut this pattern, the neckline out, because remember we are lowering the neckline. So cut out, by cutting out the neckline, to make sure I'm going to open it and make sure that everything is okay, right? So make sure everything is okay. So I lower my neckline, and I didn't cut the neckline first. I'm gonna cut the neckline after. So as you see what I'm doing here, I cut out the front first, and now I'm gonna cut the neckline. So I wanna cut the front here out, straight out here. The reason for this is because I need to make sure that my pattern cuts straight. Now I don't need the other half of the pattern, I just need this half. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut the princess line here now. So I'm gonna cut this here, and I'm gonna close this neck dart. So I'm gonna close the neck dart for remove the extra ease, because remember you lower the neckline and you need to take out some of the ease from the width. Take out the width from the neckline, because it's gonna be too big, it's gonna be droopy. So to remove like a 1 to 1/2 centimeter from your neckline. I like to remove a 1 centimeter, and I get a more flatter and neat sit down around the perimeter or your neck. You don't want it to be droopy. So what I'm doing is folding it to make sure it's okay before I cut off the remaining piece of the neckline. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut off the neckline. So I lower my neckline 6 centimeter. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to, remember I moved the shoulder dart to the waist. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to insert a piece of paper and cut off the extra piece of paper from between that dart and insert a piece of paper to make the dart. The reason why I'm doing this, you don't oblige to do this. You can just insert a piece of paper and just close that dart right there. But I like to see my dart. I don't want this extra piece blocking me. I want to see that I remove the paper, and I want to see that I have the dart that I remove from the shoulder to the waist. You know you girl how she like to design things. So this is what it would look like. I feel more comfortable seeing the dart than having that piece of paper blocking it. So I'm going to straighten all these lines here. I'm going to straighten it. Right? And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold that, and I'm going to close that dart with a line to complete the dart. Right, so that I can cut out this bodice. So this is what your bodice will look like after you complete. So lock in the dart. So as you can see, I lock in the dart here. I'm going to put a little extra 1 centimeter at the bottom of this top. The reason why is because I don't want the top to be too short, because sometimes if you cut it out like that and you put it onto the skirt, sometimes it might be too short. So I would prefer to have the extra where I can pin it out. So it always better to let you have a little half-inch extra on the bottom of your top, so you can pin it out, because you cannot add anything on. Once you cut the fabric, you cannot add, but if you have an extra, you can cut it out. So I'm straightening all the line, and now I'm gonna cut out this top for this client. So I'm gonna cut out this paper here, and when I done, I'm going to divide this top from the style line, the princess seam line. I'm gonna cut that off, right? Now it's just a guideline I am putting here by the princess seam. I like to draw in these guidelines just in case when I'm ready to cut out the fabric and it drooping too much, I can take that out, right? So this is just guideline I am drawing in here, right here. So I will just cut off that little piece when I'm ready to cut the princess seam line, right? The bigger guideline I just draw it in to see how if it would look better lower or higher, right? So don't take that guideline for nothing. That's just a guideline. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna separate those two pieces. So you see I cut in the higher point. So I'm gonna separate those pieces and cut the dart closer to the button stay, right? And now I'm gonna cut the guideline to the smaller piece there, right there, and I'm gonna take off that smaller piece, right? So right there, I'm gonna take that off. So this is what the princess seam, and I'm gonna cut out that dart. Now we don't need this dart again, because remember, I moved the dart from the shoulder to the waist, and I don't need that dart, and now I remove the dart from the waist. So when I stitch these two top together, I don't have a dart in the waist because I remove it. I turn it into a princess seam. This is how you make a princess seam, easy and quick. Now I'm gonna write the front. I'm gonna cut 2 the side. I'm going to cut 2 for the side front. What I'm doing here, I'm drawing in the green line. So when I'm ready to cut it out, I could line it up so that I can get the fabric straight, right? So this is how you make the button front and the princess seam. So when you stitch it back, it will match up properly. Now what we're gonna do, we're going to go and trace the back of the top. Now the same thing as the front I do to the back, but only thing the back a little different because I'm going to fold in the zipper allowance as you see me doing here. I'm gonna fold in the zipper allowance. The zipper allowance, I'm going to fold it in because the fabric for this one is cutting on a fold, because remember we have the button front already. You don't want a zip in the back of your top or your dress, because remember you have the button front to close up this top to get into this dress. If you want a button front, a zip in the back, well then do not fold the zipper fly, the allowance. You can leave it, right? So I fold it and I trace over this top. So this is the center back of the top that I am tracing. I trace here so that I can attach it to the front. Now I'm going to draw in the dart, right? And I'm going to move the armhole dart to the armhole to the side. I'm going to take out the armhole dart, sorry. So you see I measure in there is 1.5 centimeter. So I'm going to go in 1.5 centimeter on the armhole, and I'm going to redraw the armhole. So I take out the shoulder dart from the back of the top because I don't need the shoulder dart on the back of the top. Most people hardly use the shoulder dart for the back of the top. Some people do use it, depends on how the shoulder is. So I'm going to measure the front or the top, the shoulder, to make sure that it would line up properly, because you have to do this. If you don't do this, when you're ready to put this two shoulder together, it would be short. So what I do, I measure down the same 6 centimeter. I measure down, or you can carry the back a little higher. It don't have to be 6 centimeter. The back could be a little higher. So my back, I will carry down maybe 4 centimeter. So I carry down 4 centimeter, all right? And then you're gonna draw in. So remember, Yes, so remember 4 centimeter, as you can see, I bring it up back a little because the 6 centimeter was too low, and then the same 3 centimeter to the neckline. So it's gonna be match up the same thing. So you see 4 and 4. So 4 centimeter right down to the measure down, and then you measure the same amount by the shoulder, and you're gonna lower your back neckline. So what I'm doing here, I'm gonna take out a little piece of this top here, because my client have a kind of sink in her back, you know, and if I don't do that, the zipper would be full, the top would be folding up in the back. You would have this extra fold. So I take out like 1 to 2 centimeter from the back of the top, right where it will be cutting on the fold. I take out that. So as you can see what I do here, so my client have this sink in the back. So if I don't take out that amount, the fabric will be folding up in the back. Now what I'm doing with the neckline, I'm putting in a little seam line here. Now I would cut this out on a piece of brown cotton just to make sure I get the proper fit. So I'm going to cut this back of this pattern out right now here. Then I'm going to fold in this dart closer to the side, and I'm going to cut out the dart to get the extra piece of fabric, as you see me doing here. Alright, so I'm going to straighten this line here because it was a kind of crooked line. You just make sure all your line them straight, because when you're ready to cut out this fabric, you don't want no crooked line and then it's short. So cut out the pattern here. Now what I'm doing, cutting out the pattern to the new armhole that I draft, because I take out the shoulder dart and I cutting, make sure I take out the shoulder dart so that the shoulder won't be wide, and I'm going to measure it with the front. So as you can see, you see the front measure up very nice. It look very good. So this could work for me. I am satisfied with this top, so I'm going to do the green line so that I can line up the client. So look at how I gonna put this now. So you see the two side matching up, you see the dart matching up when I pull the skirt. Now the extra piece for the skirt, that is the zipper line. So when I ready to cut it, I'm going to fold in that zipper line so that it could come and match back the back, because remember the back in having any zipper. So this is the skirt with the zipper allowance already. So when I ready to cut the back, I'm going to fold in that zipper allowance so it could come and match back the back. So this is what the back and the front look like, as you can see here. So this is what your pattern supposed to look like when you finish. So this is the skirt, and I put in the front. As you can see, when the seam line, this princess seam go to the side, the front will match up properly. So now what we're gonna do, I'm going to get a piece of brown cotton right here, and I'm gonna cut out this pattern here, and I'm going to show you how to design the button so you can get to do your button flap. Now I do already this top already draft with the button flap as I show you, but I'll show you how to center this button. So I'm gonna pin this top here, and when I finish, I'm gonna cut this top out. So go ahead, place your pattern on your fabric. So this is a brown cotton I'm using. We call it the muslin fabric or a trial fabric, but some people say it's brown cotton. I more know it as the muslin fabric, right? So this is the brown cotton. This is just the trial I am doing to make sure that my client clothes fit well. I'm going to put it on a mannequin with her size that her size is up to, and make sure it sit down properly before I cut the real fabric. All right, I always do a trial before I cut the real fabric. So I said, let me just show you what I am doing and how to do this button front top. Now this top don't have a collar, it just have the button in front. And next time I'm going to show you how to put on a collar on the top. But right now we are focusing on just the button front, because the client don't want a collar, they just want the button front. So I'm putting in some seam allowance on the front so that I can stitch the neckline when I finish. So this is the brown cotton that I place it on. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm adding some seam allowance, because remember I didn't add any seam allowance to the pattern here. So what I'm doing, I'm gonna add the seam allowance, because you have to add the seam allowance to able to stitch back the princess seam to this, because if you don't do that, it would be short, it would can't stitch back, the top would be very tight. So go ahead and cut out this pattern, cut it out, cut out the princess seam and this one here, right? Cut out the front, and then you're going to cut out the princess seam. I'm going to mark in the button allowance, so that when I open, take it off the paper, I could see where the line is, so I can draw it in. Because you want to do that, because you don't want, when you remove the pattern, you cannot see the marking. So do as I am doing here, or if you have a better way, you can do it a better way. Some people use dressmaker paper, and the thing you just roll it with. Everything just coming out my mind right now. I just can't remember the name of this thing. Anyhow, I marking in the line here for the button allowance. As you see me doing here, I'm going to do it on both fabric, because when I open all the fabric, the two front, I must able to see the line. So go ahead and mark in yours as I am doing here. So this is the easiest way to do a button front tab. There many people do it in many different way, but me, I just like doing my thing my way, and it work for me, because sometimes it's so complicated. Some people show you these things so complicated, right, and you can't understand. So you see how nice this look. So this is my button stay. And remember, if you're doing a button front top, remember for women, your button the always on the right, the hole, the buttonhole always would be on the right of your top, right? For women is right over left, for men is left over right. Remember that. Remember, we the women right over left, and for men left over right, right? So this is what the button top would look like. You see how easy, quick and nice this do. Some people show you so much complicated things that you don't even know. Sometimes you don't even want to sew button top, because it's so complicated. So what I'm doing here, I'm marking down the button. In a next proper video, I will show you how to mark down your button, so that you can get the button stay. So what I do, I mark like 5 centimeter from the top, and then I'm gonna mark 1.5 centimeter down from that line, and then I'm going to continue marking the next 7 centimeter. Then I'm going to mark a 1.5 centimeter, and then a 7 centimeter, and then a 1.5 centimeter, till I could continue to get the button, the amount of button that I need. All right, now what I'm going to do for you, in our next video, I'm going to show you how to mark out your button in more detail, in a more detailed video. But right now, this is a client clothes I have, and it's on schedule. So I just showing you how I design for my client, and how I do trial on brown cotton, or on any trial fabric, to make sure that you get this thing right before you go and cut your original fabric. So to all my subscriber, I would advise you, please, if you're a beginner, or if you're now learning, please do it on trial fabric. Some old fabric force, some old sheet, some old dress, some old something, before you go and cut your expensive fabric. Because once you cut the expensive fabric, there is nothing you can do after. So that's why I am showing you here in details how I design for my client. I do not cut my client expensive cloth first. I do a trial force before, so I am spacing out the button here on the trial fabric. So I could afford to mark up this fabric with pen, with pencil, with whatever, because this is just a trial. Okay, this is going to be the original. Now the pen that I am using, it was a erase pen. With heat, it could come off. With washing, it could come off. So this is a washable pen, so it could come off, the marking could come off with heat and with when I wash it, right? So you see I'm spacing my button. So the button spacing is 7 centimeter away from each other, right? As you can see. So you leave the spacing for it. So I'm going to show you in a more detailed way how to do a button, how to get your button right in a more detailed video. But right now, this top is on schedule. So I really can't explain and take time on how I usually do because the client, this thing overdue, right? And remember, if your thing on schedule, you have a client on schedule, you have to keep that schedule, especially if you give them that timing. So I want to keep the schedule with the client because this is a really good client. I do all my the sewing for this client. This client don't go anywhere else. If I am book up, this client would wait. So this is what your button top will look like. So you see how easy it is to make a button top. Your girl like more easy stuff. I don't like difficult stuff. So this is what your button front top will look like. Alright? So you see how I space the button? It's very easy and quick. Now I'm gonna draw in a 1 centimeter line at the front of the top. That's because the button, when you're placing the button, it have to be about 1 centimeter from the edge of the top. All right, either 1 centimeter or a half centimeter or a quarter centimeter. It depends on how you like your button to be. I like my button to be like a 1 centimeter from the front of the top, so I can get that little overlapping, so you won't see your skin through the top. When you put on the top, you won't see, when the button sprawl, you won't see your skin. Because you know sometimes you get a little fat, the top get a little tight and you want to put it on, but the button sprawling out, right? So now what you do, you cut out the side of your top. So I go ahead and I cut out the princess seam on fabric on the same brown cotton, and I'm going to pin this together. Okay, so you go ahead and pin this together. So I'm going to mark out the seam allowance on the side, because you want to mark out the seam allowance so you can pin this properly. Because if you don't do that, you might overpin more, you might pin in more than the seam allowance, or you might pin less. And that's how come you end up with this pucker in this top. So I'm going to start pinning it from the bottom of this top. So you're going to do this with both the two princess seam on the both end of the two front of the top. You're going to pin the other princess seam to the other side of the top like I am doing here. And you're going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch these two pieces that you pin to the front of the top. This is the princess seam or the top. So you're going to pin that out and you're going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch them. All right. So I pin one. Go ahead and do the next one the same way as how I see me doing this one here. Pin it the same way. See how neat this look? Because I pin in the seam allowance the right way. So go and stitch both the two princess seam. Go and stitch them, and then you'll reach me back here. Now I finished stitch my own, so I'm going to press it on this dirty ironing board. Now you see I have this ironing board here. They all know I just keep it real. Now, ironing is something that stain up. When I buy this ironing board, it was very clean and nice. Now, I don't know how this ironing board come in this condition, but these are my ironing board look very much terrible. All right? But I'm going to show you how to cover this dirty ironing board. If you have a dirty ironing board like me, I'm going to show you how to cover it. Don't stress. You understand? And don't come and say in this video, God, look how she ironing board dirty. She can't cover this ironing board. Listen, when you see you on your sewing, you have time to watch all the stitch that and let we press this top now. After you're done press, you're gonna stitch this top together. You will not stitch it, sorry. You're pressing the top. Now I make a talk so much about this dirty iron board that I even forget what I have to say. But anyhow, we're pressing in the seam allowance, right? There's the little end of the seam allowance, so we have to put in for make the end neat. And now you're going to take your button side and you're going to place it up top of that one. So you see, and now you're going to get your pin and we're gonna pin this down. This is the back of the top I have here. You have to cut out your back as well. So I go ahead and I cut out the back of my top. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to sew these two darts together. Remember the back of the pattern have two darts. So you need to sew in these two darts together. So you're going to pin your two darts together, and you're going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch these two darts. And when you're done stitching these two darts, you're going to press these two darts to the side or the top or the middle or the top. So I'm going to mark in the seam allowance here, and I'm going to stitch this two side of the top, the back to the front, at the two side, and the back to the front at the shoulder. Okay, so marking yours, and let's go. And you're gonna go to your sewing machine and you're gonna stitch these two shoulders. So stitch the shoulder to the front shoulder to the back shoulder, as you see I'm doing here. I'm going to pin it, stitch it right. So next, what you're gonna do the same for the side, pin it, and then go to your sewing machine and you're gonna stitch the two side, back and front. Okay, so pin it and then go and stitch it. Good. So now I finished stitching mines, and this is what this whole top look like. Now I'm gonna give this a good press. Make sure you give it a good press before you remove this pin. Make sure you press it. You see how nice and neat this look? Give this thing a good press so all the seam lines could be neat. It could come out neat and your top could fit neat. Because when I'm ready to put this on the mannequin for the client, I want everything must be sitting down properly and it must sit down well. Okay, so give your top a good press. All the seam line, all the dart, everything, give it a good press. Even the button flap, give it a good press. The back of the top, give the back of the top a very good press so you can see what you're doing. So look at what the button top look like. So you see I have enough room. So I know this would fit my client very well. So I open it. So I don't need a zip in the back, as you can see. So you see what the front to the top look like. So this is how you do a button front top. Remember, this don't have a collar. So I'm going to place the button, let you see what it look like. So you see how easy, quick, and nice. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope I was make it easy, simple, and quick for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. So you see how easy is it to make that button top. Now what I am doing here, I showing you how to cover that dirty ironing board. If you have a dirty ironing board, get a piece of the same brown cotton. The reason why I using this brown cotton is because this don't stain, right? So I'm gonna cut it was covered in a brown cotton, and I'm gonna recover it in the same brown cotton, because you don't want to put a fabric so that to stain your clothes, because remember you're using a steam iron and you don't want the color of the fabric come out on your clothes, because that would be disaster, especially if you're sewing for a client and it stain the clothes and then you can't find the fabric, no way to buy it back. You don't want to be buying back fabric for client. So use the brown cotton or the muslin fabric or whatever you know it as, and cover your ironing board. So this is the dirty ironing board that I had. Right, the ironing board was really looking bad in my eyes. I really don't like how it was looking, because all them iron mark and water stain and all these things. So I decided to show you how I recover my ironing board. So don't dare they laughing and say, oh, look your ironing board and look your this. Listen, now I showing you how I recover this same dirty ironing board and how I gonna make this ironing board clean. Now if this cloth get dirty again, all I have to do is raise up them little staple and recover it again and again and again and again. You see how neat and nice this look? Now look how clean and fresh this little ironing board will look. Now me want this little strap, because I don't hang up this thing now. My thing is rest on the floor. Me got space to hang up all these things on the wall and all these things. Neighbor nail me place with all these hook and all these things. So I fold in the little strap, because me want to hang nothing for no. I throw it in a corner to brace up on the wall on a corner. So when I ready, I just get it very easy. Alright, so fold in this here, fold it in back, and then you make your nice fold, and now you're gonna staple this here down, and your ironing board would look very fresh and neat and nice. So here is what your ironing board look like. You see how nice this look, clean, and you see how easy, look how clean this look, and look how easy it is to recover any old ironing board you have. You can recover it with brown cotton, very easy and nice. So I hope I was able to make this video easy and quick. I hope you understand everything that I show you about the button top. I hope it was easy for you, and if you like this video, please leave the comment down below. If you want to see more of this video, let me know down below. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye. Have a nice day.